Let's talk about skin tone color correction in Premiere Pro. This is some footage I intentionally took with the wrong white balance setting. Now, if the background or some inanimate objects in the shot get a weird color cast, it's not that big of a deal. But humans are hardwired to recognize other humans. And that means if there's something a little bit off about the skin tone, we're totally going to notice it and it's going to be a distraction to us. We want people to focus on our content, not on the colors in the shot. So we want to make sure we get those skin tones right. Fortunately, there's a super cool tool in Adobe Premiere that makes it easier to do this. And it was years before I realized this was a thing and it blew my mind. So I wanted to share it with you in case you hadn't heard about it before. You're going to want to go to your Lumetri Scopes panel and make sure you have the Vectorscope YUV displayed. It should look like this. If you don't already see it, you can right click on the scopes and select Vectorscope YUV, just like this. Now, the fascinating thing about this scope is these diagonal lines. And I had never paid much attention to them or given them much thought, but it turns out that these diagonal lines are there for a reason and they are super useful. Now, this one here that goes up and to the left is actually a skin tone line. And that means that most people's skin, when it's properly colored, the scope is going to show it going along that line. So what you can do is actually just mask out the skin of someone in your shot. And when you're just seeing that, you should see a batch of colors that follows that line almost exactly. So let's give it a shot. So what I'm going to do is just create an opacity mask that shows a good chunk of the skin here so I can just see that on the scope. And let's see where it lands. Well, we can see that that's way off. So now I'm going to go in here and adjust the color temperature and tint a little bit. See if I can bring it where I want it. Okay, that's looking pretty close. Now, once I'm done, I can just delete the mask and see how it looks. And as you can see, that's quite a bit closer, and that gets us pretty much where we need to be. Now from here, I can make a few minor tweaks if I need to adjust the curves or something like that to get it exactly where I want it. But this gets us really close, really fast, and we have that reference point of this diagonal line to let us know when what we're seeing is a basic human skin tone. Now you may be wondering how they get everything along a single line when there's such a variety of skin tones in the world. But most skin, apart from differences in lightness and darkness, most skin is actually pretty much the same color. And that color is informed by the color of our blood beneath the skin. Now, there is some variation, but for most people, the skin tone is going to be really similar, at least in terms of the color values for it. So if you get them along that line, you're probably 99% of the way there, and then you might just do a little bit of tweaking depending on how it matches in reality. Anyway, it took me years before I realized that handy tool was in there, so I wanted to share it with you to make sure that you didn't take years figuring the same thing out. I have some other videos on color correction as well, so I hope you'll check those out. And if you like these kinds of video editing topics, I hope you'll hit that subscribe button.